So today in this video, we are going to talk about MCP, Model Context Protocol. So first, we are going to introduce you what exactly MCP is and how it's going to benefit us in future. It's a completely different paradigm, and I have seen a lot of different definitions of it, but I have my own take on that, and we're going to talk about, so it will become very clear. I think it is a silent Y2K moment for software engineers. The way we had a flood of work has come at the Y2K time, same way MCP is going to create a lot of work. Of course, we know AI is taking a lot of jobs, but things like MCP is going to create a lot of new jobs. So we'll talk about that in detail. Then we'll build a MCP server using Python, and we'll connect it with Claude Client. You may have seen a lot of YouTube videos which are doing that, but I want to take a slightly different take. First, we will connect it with Claude Client, and then we are going to develop our own client. And today, as I said, there's a lot of videos which talks about hello world, building MCP server and connecting with client, and that's where they end. But that is not very, very useful. Of course, it's useful, but not very useful. So we will see how in an enterprise, you will build the server and client, and they may be sitting on different machines and how they will interact. So that's what we will develop, client also and server. And then we will see how you can use MCP in the real world scenarios. So let me explain what I understand about MCP and how the current world is and how it's going to change our future. As you can see in this picture, a lot of wires are shown. So one good example of MCP is like this is a USB connector. It's one connector which can connect all different kind of instruments. All different kind of devices can connect using just one connector, which is our USB connector. So that is one good example of MCP to keep in mind. But let's drill a little bit deeper, and I would like to take this example, a very simplified example, and build on that. So we see in today's enterprise, any employee is dealing with multiple applications. And I'm taking an example here. Somebody is working in a research lab, and he or she has to deal with different applications, say projects, and then to book an instrument, and then order a couple of compounds and chemicals through some inventory application, and then deploy his or her solution in Kubernetes or in cloud. So this is a very simple example of a person working in a lab. Now, this example can be turned into, anybody working in any department, that can be marketing or accounting or sales. We all deal with different kind of application. So what we have to do is we generally go to application, do data entry, look at things, print the report. And most of these applications are very disparate applications. They are not connected. Of course, they have a very clearly defined maybe integration point. They have APIs and web services. But still, to connect these all applications, it's a lot of work because you have to be very clear what these applications are doing, what is the API signature, all that. So we'll see how MCP simplifies this connecting these different applications together. And the beauty of it, it does not have to be very strict about the signature of the APIs and all. And we'll see it in more detail. So this is another example that I may have multiple servers, not necessarily that I have to have multiple servers, but in real life you may have, and these multiple servers are connected with different systems, and I'm calling them here tools. So if you want to book an instrument in lab, you may have a tool which is instrument booking tool. Using that, you can book an instrument. So the same way you have inventory tool, so you can check inventory, you can place order and things like that. And similarly, you have this DevOps. So this is one high level picture I'm showing, that with this MCP server, multiple tools can connect to this MCP server. And then as a user, you just deal with one client. Here I'm showing you an example of a Claude desktop, which we are going to see in more detail. But this client can be your own application, which is connecting with this different MCP server. So here, of course, it simplifies a little bit, that all these different tools connected to one MCP server, and the client is talking to one MCP server. So, but what is exactly the big benefit of MCP, right? And that, if I want to see, I will show it in a little different picture, that now I am dealing with one client. I have one desktop application, which can be, homegrown, or it can be Claude or anything else. And it is connecting behind the scene with these different tools, project, instrument, inventory, and all. And today, what I have to do is, as a human, I have to go to these different applications myself. But tomorrow, once all this is in place, like MCP server is in place and client is there, what will happen? I will talk to project and say, I'm creating a project of my research project. And that research project understand that to do this kind of research, I need to book these instruments. And looking at the dates and all, this project itself can talk to instrument saying that I want to book these instruments because this is the project is coming and this project need these instruments. Now it's no more human has to go to another application and book the instrument. So you see the benefit there. The project can directly talk to instrument. And why they can talk to each other? Because of this MCP servers. And the servers make this communication between two different applications, tools, much more simpler, because they have defined a protocol that this is how your web services or your tool calls need to be defined, and the client understand, server understand, so they can all start talking to each other. And similarly, if I take this example a step further, we will say that this project will again talk to inventory system saying this project is coming, this project or this experiment need these compounds and chemicals, so let's order those inventory. Now human don't have to now go to these two places to do all this. Same way Kubernetes I took as an example, but this, imagine this is a DevOps environment, and you can deploy your solution using, again, a simple client. And the simplicity of connecting all these things together, we will see it with a very clear example that how this MCP server make it so simple for me to use this tooling application. We'll see it with one example. So just bear with me. I wanted to set up a high level overview of everything, and then we'll drill down into the coding, and then we'll see how to develop this MCP server and use it through client, and how simple and easy the user life will become because of this MCP server. So one more thing I want to quickly show you. Of course, we are going to develop our own server, but if you will go to this github.com model context protocol servers, you will see a lot of servers by third party is already built, which is including Azure, AWS servers are there, Alibaba, and a lot of these third party servers have come. Now, because these servers are built by third party, Plumi, you don't have to do much here other than just configure your client, and suddenly your client is capable of understanding the messages coming in WhatsApp and replying them. I'm not seeing here a WhatsApp server, but I know there is a WhatsApp server too. So regardless, as you can see, all these servers are growing by the minute actually. And here I can see a PayPal server. So you can do a lot of things. So let's look at this PayPal server just for a minute. As you can see, MCP server is developed by PayPal itself. And just with some configuration and token itself, your client application is fully capable of using PayPal. So that's the beauty of this MCP protocol. So here, as you can see, just with one JSON configuration, your application can start creating an invoice for house cleaning service for cost blah, and you can send this invoice to people. So this is like many, many days of work is shrunk to few minutes of this JSON configuration. Now let's go and see how we will develop our own server if we are one of those providers. Or you are in some big enterprise and you have all this disparate application and you want to create MCP server so the other client and application can consume it. Okay, so let's develop our own MCP server. So to develop our own server, I'll start from a blank directory. I have a directory called MCP server. It's empty and we are starting from here. And I start my VS Code here. So let's go and open the folder here, code and MCP server. It's empty. So now we selected this. Now we'll make it full screen. And now let's go to terminal. And first thing we will do is we will install UV. And to install UV, you do this pip install UV. Of course, I'm assuming here you have pip install on your machine. If you don't, please go figure it out how to install pip on your machine and Python. So that is not part of this video. So once you have those two things working, then you come here and then you install UV. So I already have installed it, but if you will run this pip install UV, it will be installed. And now first thing we will do is UV init instruments. So I want to create a MCP server using which I can book an instrument. So that is the idea of the server. So I will say UV init instrument. So what this command does is it creates a directory and creates all these files. And as you can see, it's all empty. But the beauty of this UV is it creates all these different files, Python version, and this Py project where it will keep adding all the dependencies. Now let's go into instruments and create a virtual environment, which is venv. Now the virtual environment is created. Now let's go move to that virtual environment. And for that, .venv and scripts activate. And you can see here's a directory created called venv. So now let's activate this. And now we have a virtual environment created, a directory created. And now let's add some of the prerequisites. So uv add MCP CLI HTTPX. I'm adding these because these are very common libraries you need. You will see it how we're going to use them in part 1 and part 2 and part 3 of this video series. Got an error because there was supposed to be a space. As you've seen, as soon as we pressed enter, it's updated dependencies. So that's what UV is doing behind the scene for us. Now, let's create a file called new item instruments py, because this is the server file. and it is created here. So now we'll go to this instruments py. It's an empty file. Now this is the file where we'll start writing our server. So here, first thing is we'll import the fast MCP server from MCP Server fast MCP. And then we'll create a MCP server called instruments. So now my server is created. Now I'm going to create a tool. The tool which will be called by the client. So this is my MCP tool decorator I have to write over my function, and my function name can be book an instrument. So now let's write the function to book an instrument, and this is the definition of book instrument tool, which is asking the instrument name, date, to, from, and location, and the booker name who is trying to book this. So this is the definition of my tool call. Now let's do this, return just this much, saying the tool is booked. Obviously, now I have to leave this comment. This is most important because this comment is used by LLM to figure it out which tool to call. So book an instrument for a user. This is the comment I wrote in my method, and I'm returning just this string saying the instrument is booked. Obviously, you understand this. This method can be very complex. It can call other services and do a lot of other things. All the business rule can go here. But we don't want to bog down in all other details because we are focused on building MCP server. So this is one method I wrote, book an instrument, and that's it. Now let's go here, write this my main method, which is going to run MCP run. I'll just write here transport. So now we are just doing standard IO, but we'll see later on how this standard IO can be changed. So the server and client can sit in remote machines. Today, now because they are standard IO, they will be sitting next to each other, but we'll see it in more detail later. So this is it. Define a MCP server, write a tool, and then just run that method. So this is my hello world of my MCP server is done. Now let's see how I can use it through the Claude desktop. So to download Claude, you go here and just search Claude desktop app. Download that app from here, from Claude. And then I already downloaded, so let me start it. So this Claude application is running. Now, first thing, before I can use my server, what I have to do, I have to go to File and then go in Settings and then I have to go to Developer. And here's a button called Edit Config. And this config we have to edit. So if I click on this button, it takes me directly to my config file, which is hidden inside Claude directory. I don't have to know all that because I can just click on this button. I come directly here and open this. And as you can see, I have two MCP server. One is weather. Let's get rid of it. I don't want to use it. And then I already created another server called instrument. So which is what it is showing here. As you can see here in command, I have to give the full path for my UVEXE, the full path. And here I have to give the path to where my instrument py file is. Okay. So as you can see, this is what I will do to enable this MCP server with Claude desktop. Okay. Now I'm going to save it. Sorry. Now this is the path of my old MCP server. Now let's change this. So to change it, So here's my instrument file. Let's take the path of it, full path, copy the path, which is here, and just copy this whole thing. As you can see, I copy one slash, but I have to double it. Otherwise, it will not work. So now let's save this. And here is one tricky thing. Now, if you'll go here, you should be able to see the tools. As I can see, I don't see my tool. I just deleted weather, but still it's showing here. And it's not showing my instrument. I spent, I don't know, hours figuring out like what's wrong here. So fortunately, you're watching this video, you will save a lot of your time by you don't have to figure this out. What you have to do is close this Claude. It's not good enough if you just close it. You have to go in the task manager and kill that process. So let's do that. So I'm here and here's my Claude. I have to kill it. The operation is not valid for this process. Okay, now it's got killed. Let's restart it. Claude app. Now let's see if it works. Still not working. It's showing just the web search, but it is not showing my instrument. So why it was not working? Because I noticed that when I was deleting my weather server, by mistake, I deleted this MCP server also. So as you can see, this is now a proper JSON. Another thing I can show you, if you don't want to come here and edit it by hand, what you can do is you can write this command called uv run MCP install instruments py. So this way, when you run it here from the instrument directory, you input enter, it will add this server into the Claude config file. And if you go back here, you will see it's added. It has overwritten my instrument, which I have written because my UV-EXE was a different path. But this command is overwritten. So maybe it will work. We can leave it for now. But if you want to see the previous change, let me do Control Z here if it works. Yeah. So as you can see, this was my command and this is the command written by this UV itself. Okay. So let's save this thing and let's go start the Claude again. Hopefully it will work because it has a proper config file. Okay, here's the moment of truth. Let's click here and see. Nope, I still don't see it here. Okay, so I'm going to go to my task manager and find out my Claude, this one, and I'm going to kill this. Okay, it's completely gone. Now restart it. Now let's see. Okay, I can see a instrument server is added. It's unfortunate that we have to go and literally kill this process in Task Manager. Otherwise, you will go crazy and you will not see your MCP server working. So anyway, now we know it's working. I want to book an instrument, say book a Philips ultrasound IE33 for Rafat from this date, 10 a.m. till 6:12, 3 p.m. Let's get it to 6:11 because the time has changed. And now I will say, click it. Hopefully, this Claude connected with my server, figured it out, would like to use an external integration. It's asking. And you say allow always. So I allowed it. Now you can see it's giving me a response saying this instrument is being successfully booked for Rafat from June this time to that, and all that information it's giving me. Now, the beauty is I wrote an English statement and LLM parsed all the information to do the to make the call to the tool. And here, the thing I am seeing is it is showing location medical equipment room. I did not give the location here, right? But it is just took as a default. This is not right. So let's see how we can fix these things that my this small hello world server does not make these small and useless mistakes. So to fix that, let's go back to our code. So here's my code. What I have to do is I have to add a validation for this. That if location is not given, ask the user to give you the location and just don't book the instrument without the location. So to do that, let's see what changes we have to bring. Let's get the JSON validators here. And then let's create an schema. My schema says date to date from, location is string, and all that is there. And then let's add a try catch block on top of my this method where I'm going to validate my instance. And if there's anything missing, it will send a message. So this is the change we have done. And now let's go back. So let's do a change. Let's change the equipment name. Now it's 55. And let's change this from 18 to 20 maybe. Okay. Okay. It is not taking my changes, my validation, the location here. This is not right. So why it's not catching up with my validation? Let's restart this Claude just to make sure it is picking up the new code, new server. So go back here, go to Claude, kill it, and now start again. It's saying it's disconnected. What happened? Command failed. Okay, why it is failed? Is there an error? Oh, I am missing a very important typing information. This validate uses the type information, right? That's what we defined here. So that was missing, and that's why it was not working. So, okay, now we know the routine. We'll go and kill the Claude and restart it. Still I'm getting the error. Please visit debugging open MCP setting. Interesting. Server disconnected for troubleshooting debugging document. We'll go to MCP inspector in a minute, but I wanted to make sure it is running from here. It's saying there's a log file created in the library. So let's see. Here's the logs. MCP log here. So this is good. At a real time, you are seeing the problem and how to debug all these things. Close unexpectedly, server transport close, blah, blah, blah. Print file system standard in, and it appear in this log. Okay, so here's the error. No module name JSON schema is there, right? That's the missing thing. So let's go and install that. Go to terminal and then move to instrument. Activate the environment. Sorry, I have to say UV pip install JSON schema. Okay, it's added here, and if I go in this file, I should see this JSON schema should be added. Anyway, should be working now. Let's go start Claude. Now click here. Still not there. So now let me explain you how I fixed this bug of my MCP server start showing it here. So it was not showing and it was continuously giving me the error that JSON schema failed to load. And in my code, I tried everything. So to fix it, this is how I did it. If you see what I did, I started printing the path. That what is the path of Python used by Claude Desktop? It is using something else. And obviously I have to comment this thing first time to run the code just to see what is the path used by the Claude Desktop. And interestingly, when you put this line here and I loaded the Claude Desktop and loaded this MCP server, it did all that. And this is what I start seeing, that Python executable path is a cache directory in my app data local. I know you are wondering about this error, but bear with me, you may save hours of debugging because I spent so long now to figure this out. So this is what's happening, that Python picked up from the desktop from this cache directory, okay? So to fix that, give it a proper path, I use this command here in my code, that uv run python -c import sys and print sys.executable. So I got this path. Now once I have this path, I went back to my config file, which is my Claude desktop config file, and I changed it to this. Now the command is just the python exe, no more uv. An argument is straight to my Python file. That's it. So I gave this, and of course, you restart, you go to the task manager, kill your Claude, and then when I start, it's now working. So what I wanted to show you, to put some kind of validation around booking the instrument. So if I take this command that I want to book this, and see, I'm not giving the location, but here I started checking for location and throwing an error if there's no location found. So now let's see what happens if I give this command and tell it that book a instrument from this date to that date, and location is not specified. And it gives me an error saying, I need to know the location to complete the booking. Could you please specify where the flip ultrasound should be booked for refer? So you see how now it suddenly become very intelligent. So I will say maybe location is Redmond. Now it has created this request with the location to Redmond, and it says perfect. It has successfully booked my instrument. So this is how you will create a server. So let's delete all this is not needed anymore. And this is my validation code is here. And let me remove this also. This is all I added for the debugging purpose. So as you can see now, you can do the validation to these tool methods. Now let me show you another thing. So now I'll show you how you can use MCP inspector. So the command is npx model context protocol /inspector, and here I'm giving the path of my uvexe, and that's fine because I'm running it from my terminal, and then run and then the path to the project. Okay. Now it is starting the inspector, and you can see it will show me that where it is running. It will be running on a local host, listening on a particular port here, this one here. So if I go and click this, you can see the command I have passed, uvexe, and this is my arguments to my project, and now I can connect it. So once I'm connected, I can list the resources, prompt, and tools. So I have only tools so far. So I'll click on tools, and here I can do the list tools. And as you can see, I have one tool called book instrument. I can click here, it takes all this name and everything, and I can fill up this and then run the tool from here itself. Validation error because it needs instrument name and all those things. So it is giving me error because we did put a validation that I must have location and all that date cannot be empty, because as you've seen in our code, here we are doing this validation, and if the validation is not proper, we're going to throw the error. Okay, so this is how you can create a server and use your Claude desktop to test it. Now in the next session, we will talk about how to create your own client, and don't use the Claude desktop as such. Create your own client and connect it to the server. So for that, let's take a look at the part 2. That's where we'll create the client and connect it to the server.